Good morning, everyone. Going to just wait a few minutes here, give everyone a couple of minutes to get in here before we get started this morning. Hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's doing great. All right, here we go. So, what's going on this morning? First, we have let me check in over here 1 second, please. We have the Bank of Canada meeting at 10 o'clock a.m. They're expected for a half a percent rate cut. Let's see how the Canadian dollar reacts. I assume it will continue to be weak. I have no idea. We saw some better than expected ADP non-farm employment change this morning. And we have also at 10 a.m. the non-manufacturing ISM. Let's see, the euro is giving up some of its gains off of this resistance. The markets seem to me today, although they're still jumpy, they seem to me to be almost falling into a more resembling almost normal market conditions. What do I say? What do I mean by normal? I mean the volatility we saw over the last couple of days was pretty hectic, to say the least. It was very erratic. I feel like we're now going to be entering a period that is a little more easy to read, and I hope that I'm right and we have some things to take advantage of. By the way, hope you're all doing well. I missed you all yesterday in the live stream, but I did upload a video to the channel yesterday on how I draw in support resistance. That might be of interest. You can find it in the description of this video below. Boom. Steve, Kong Bon, Heath, Blair, what's going on? Yeah, I am short the euro US dollar, and I continue to hold that. By the way, well, first let me look at the DXY with you. So this area of support over here, you can see some pretty decent support. Look at this area over here. We had all these touches over here. It was then providing some resistance support over here. This is what's holding us support right now. And I'm looking over here. This trend line, which was support, should now be resistance. And then I have this area also, which was pretty strong resistance on the way up, where it was supposed to be strong resistance on the way up. We blew through both ways. I'm looking over here as a target and to see how price reacts, but I'm holding the euro short, and I don't plan on giving that up anytime soon. So that would look at this area over here. This would be the area that I'm interested to see how price reacts in if we get a test into that area. That's what at least I'm looking for. But this in my from my perspective, in my mind, Heath, this trade is just getting started. Mohammed, Wilford, Danielle, great to see you all. Let's take a look. Let's start from the beginning. Let's go slow, and let's just get a nice look for the market. First of all, equity markets are responding better today. They sold off yesterday on the news of the cut. We gave a heads up as far as what might happen in Asia, in London, which normally it's very hard on days the Fed's either hikes or cuts. What happens in the New York session is often different from what happens overnight. So here the markets are kind of just stabilizing. I'm not reading much into a 2% gain, even though that is enormous. Only because look at the volatility over the last 3 days, over the last 5 days. So this is kind of like a normal range right now. Um, Bitcoin continues to consolidate, and if you all remember, as price came into the 85, what we said our base case was price was going to be consolidating between 91 and 85, and here it is. It continues. We're going to get a look at 91, I think, and then how price reacts off of that will determine the next move. Gold has been acting pretty good, right? Um, Listen, I was not even considering buying gold down here when it sold off so hard and then took out this breakout, kind of took out any stops that people entered long on this breakout. And the reason why was because, first of all, I had no idea the Fed was going to come in with a surprise half point rate cut. Um, it is We're going to see further cuts by central banks. Again, Bank of Canada today coming in there cutting. Probably the UK, the further Brexit. Um, and I'm not sure what the ECB is going to do, if anything. But the Federal Reserve is looking and expected to have further rate cuts. This is all very supportive of gold. It makes a lot of sense that gold had this huge $50, $60 move off of this after we found out the Fed cut. But listen, I have to stand aside. I'm not interested in messing with gold at all right here, right now. Yeah, Peter, that's exciting. Glad to have you here with us now with the solid connection. Um, Peter is over in Beijing and or Shanghai. Excuse me, Peter, I don't remember exactly, but shared some really good news about people returning to work, seeing I would say about 50% of the population up and about and active. And that's really positive. That's really good news. U.S. dollar, Swiss franc. So all I notice here is that, first of all, I think it was DJ who nailed this. DJ has been a beast when it comes to really big moves, and is consolidating down here right now. Right, where do we have any type of resistance? Right there. Let me draw it in because it's important to have these levels now that we've broken many other levels. I would say right there. All right. Obviously, there's some local resistance down here to get through, but there's no play here whatsoever that I could even see, and I'm just going to give this time for for a clearer picture to develop. So we're going to skip right over the U.S. dollar, Swiss franc. Let's look at the U.S. dollar, Japanese yen, and it looks similar. So down here, you could see very strong support. You see the touch over there. You can see this base over here, and price is. It looks to be not only finding support over there. It looks like we're going to get a little bounce. So it'll be interesting to see if we get a bounce up into this resistance up here at 108.86, or this would be really exciting, 109.71, which on our way down was the level that we knew that we needed to sell to buy Japanese yen. If that was broken, that turned out to be a wonderful opportunity. On the way up, these two will look to sell into if price does challenge either one of these levels. And if we take out to the upside the 109.71, at that point we start selling yen again. Now again, I'm not looking to trade versus the US dollar against the Japanese yen, but I use this as a barometer for the other Japanese yen pairs. Huge Canadian dollar news, half point rate cut expected. The Canadian dollar has been selling off into the rate cut, so just be careful. You don't know. I'm sorry. First of all, pause. We'll come back to the euro US dollar. Look at this. The Canadian dollar is actually bid today versus the euro. It's the euro weakness you're seeing. Uh, I don't know really what to make of that. I'm trying to figure it out. Obviously, you could see the resistance up here that's clear as day. What I'm if we get a rate cut here, I don't know how this price is going to react. And you know what? If you're unsure of anything, you stay away. But nevertheless, I want to figure it out. I want to know what to expect. So let's just pause a second. Um, Obviously, it's any type of guidance the Bank of Canada gives is going to be what's most helpful. The Canadian dollar has been very weak. You could see this huge weakness. Even the euro has been so strong, but look at that move. To see that bouncing over here off the resistance, that's just some profit taking. That makes a lot of sense. As far as what the next move is, to be honest, I don't have any idea. Uh, you would expect if the Bank of Canada cuts by 0.5%, you're going to see a reaction in the Canadian dollar. But the euro's on the move here this morning, obviously, after yesterday's, or I should say the last week of gains. And there's just too much uncertainty there for me to even consider. So I needed to work that out. That's what I worked out. I do want to take a look at the euro Swiss franc. Um, yeah, the euro's ugly right now. I wouldn't step in and buy this again. When we were looking at this, and I didn't look at this yesterday, I should have. I wish I did, but when we were talking about not looking to buy this pair at all because it looks like you're seeing Swiss bank intervention over here. They're holding it up. If they stop intervening, this could really collapse. The only base case was to sell into resistance. There was the look into the resistance. I had the yellow mark here to remind me, but I didn't do that, unfortunately. But I would stay away. And there's strong momentum right now. There's strong euro selling going on right now. I would stay away. Again, I personally see a tight correlation between the US equity markets and the euro right now. And as US equity markets rise, the euro gets sold. And as the US equity markets fall, the euro gets bought. So just keep aware of that. Gabriel Martin, morning. I want to check in on your trade, Blair. Well, so this is clearly a strong uptrend. Base case always is right. Buy off of support in uptrends. Trying to see a good look at where you got in, Blair. And it's jumpy. It's not clear you're doing the right thing. I think you got the right trade on there. And so the only thing that I know, the Australian dollar is the strongest currency going into the session today. I don't know where the New Zealand dollar stands. We're gonna have to go through all of them and see. Nevertheless, love the buying off of support in an uptrend, and that's the safest thing for anyone to do, right? That was just a look at the euro Swiss franc we just looked at. Sell off of resistance in downtrends, in uptrends, buy off of supports. It's like a layup in basketball, right? To get your game back on, just throw in a bunch of layups, get your groove on. Awful, good morning. Yeah, that's all right. I'm glad you're here today. Glad you're here right now. Let's check in the euro British pound. This looks interesting up here. This looks very interesting. You could see this is been the height of the range, strong resistance. Euro's weak today. Oh, I like this trade. Has it come too far? Not yet. We're still up pretty high. I'm going to watch this. I'm not going to chase it down here, but I am going to be watching this closely for any type of move back up into here. I should raise up this resistance level a little bit now. And any move back towards this resistance that is rejected, that looks pretty nice at this point in time. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. This looks like it's breaking out over here. We sent out an alert to the Telegram on this one over here. You could see we've been watching this together for months. it's finally broken out, and it looks like a solid breakout. I've been talking about this looking like a bottom being put in for a while now. Clears this resistance here to the upside, and this thing could just keep on going. But it is coming into resistance right now. Watch that. We're looking here at the euro Canadian dollar. Again, the Canadian dollar. We just looked at this one. We don't need to look at it again. Australian, what is that? Is that it? Hold on. Yeah, there we go. This is it remains a pretty strong downtrend. Obviously, this is just a retracement of the trend. If you think that the situation around the world is going to continue to get worse, I think you're looking to sell any retracements over here. The one positive thing though here for the Australian dollar is that right now China is returning to normalcy or a semblance of it, returning to work, and you're seeing cases of the coronavirus worldwide actually much worse than inside mainland China, and this could help put a bid behind the Australian dollar. So I think it's, instead of getting into the trade too soon, I think it's a question of waiting it out and looking to get into some strong resistance. Remember, only sell off of strong resistance. And the other thing is the US is just starting now to test for the coronavirus. Over the next few weeks, we should see a large escalation in cases inside the US, and that should bring a lot of risk off into the markets. So what I'm looking at, we'll be waiting and see how far we climb, to see if we climb to a level that we want to actually take a look at this, which is not yet. But if we get to much higher levels, it's something that I'm interested in. So let me set this up. All right. Euro, Australian dollar. Look at this move here. The euro is just very weak. Australian dollar is very strong today. This is a counter trend trade, and you're seeing it play out. I would say you have the strong support is still a long ways away. Let's draw it in though. Markets have moved far. Markets have moved very far over the past week. That's something that becomes interesting in a test down here, or even to the following support. But right now, this thing is falling. I'm personally looking for further euro weakness. We'll see if we get it. Jackie, what's going on? Still holding the euro. Martina, I don't know if you're long or short. So again, forget the Canadian dollar. We're going to watch how that reacts in about 40 minutes. But Japanese yen pairs have come pretty strong, pretty hard. They look to me either to be consolidating before another move down, which means any move into the top of the consolidation is a place to look for an entry. But until the yen starts selling off, I'm looking to buy yen on any retraces. That was a great trade last week. It paid off. Now it's time to wait and reload. New Zealand dollar is struggling compared to the Australian dollar. You could see it here. Well, you could see it's wow. It's doing its best just to get off its lows over here, but it's got a lot of overhead resistance, and I'm looking to sell resistance. I would like to get a look possibly up here at 0.6381. So what I'm noticing in the market very clearly, there's a lot of movement, right? There's some big ranges, which means you should be trading smaller than normal. You should be trading smaller than normal. There's some big ranges. They're counter trend right now. And I am taking the mindset right now, the approach that I want to sit back and wait for these trades to come to me. Now, Of course, there's plenty of opportunity today. If you are a short time frame minded, if you are day trading this session, this is some beautiful price action. Here you see again a Japanese yen pair consolidating down towards the lows. It looks like they're going to get ready for another leg down. So the play is towards the top of the consolidation to look to possibly lean in. And then this is all these supports have been blown out. We've seen so much strong movement over the past week. Again, you're just looking for the market to pause here, to retrace a little bit. And I think that any rallies are going to be sold. That's at least what I'm looking for. Yeah, Mohammed, gold has just come up $50 yesterday because of the Fed rate cut. Long term, gold remains, obviously something that you want to hold and you want to own. But right now, I think it's going to consolidate. I think it's going to consolidate after. Look at the volatility we saw. The huge breakout, huge back down, and now we're back towards the middle of the range. It's going to consolidate probably between 1660 and probably between 1616, right? And in this $50 range, I expect it to consolidate for a little while. So that's what I'm looking for. Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Again, down here, we talked about this in the weekly Forex forecast. This was a play to look for as a counter trend trade. It hasn't really come up that far. It's come up about 100 pips, which is not a lot. And again, this is the theme I'm seeing in the Japanese yen pair. I'm seeing them consolidating. I'm not seeing a rebound, right? I'm not seeing a V going on. I'm seeing breakdown, consolidation. I want to try and get short towards the top of that consolidation. And then absolutely, definitely into the strong resistance if we get there. But again, for right now, I'm definitely waiting and watching. New Zealand dollar weak today, but it looks like the euro is now the weakest pair, and the New Zealand dollar is definitely making a little bit of a retrace. Doesn't look like anything too strong. I think we have some much better support a little bit further below. I would just stand aside and wait. Again, you want things to be clear. There's a lot that's not clear right now, and things are definitely fluid and moving. It'll be interesting to see how the Canadian dollar reacts off of the rate cut in a little bit. It's going to be volatile. I definitely expect that. There's not much I could say here. Both of these are pretty ugly. Nice. No, there's a lot that's not clear to me right now. So the pound, Australian dollar, we do know that the Australian dollar is super strong today. It has, after going on to make a higher high, is pulled back. It continues to pull back. I think if you get a look, I don't know that you will. We're kind of near some support right here, right now. Let me draw that in because it's very relevant. Right there. So, of course, you have 2 wicks down here. This is an area of support. If price does resume off of here, perhaps it's time to get long. But I think that, well, it's a little bit jumpy. You come off really hard, really fast. I'm not really sure. I don't have a feel right now what's going on for the pound. This is stronger support to lean off of. But if this holds after price put in 2 hammers, if we'll, all of a sudden we do hold the support and resume up, start making higher highs, I'm inclined to buy the pound. I definitely think it still has a bullish structure to it, a very bullish structure. You have higher highs here. You do not have higher lows. You still have higher. You don't have lower lows. You have higher lows, and higher highs. It remains very bullish. This might be an opportunity to buy over here if and only if this support holds and you resume all upwards. Otherwise, wait it out, wait for the better opportunity, and look what happens down into the support down over here. But this pair is offering some potential, especially with, you could see it waking up with these larger ranges. And it looks good. It just requires some patience waiting for confirmation of entry, right? You don't enter here long while price is falling. Wait for price to start showing that it's resuming upwards off of this area of support, which so far is holding. Otherwise, wait for the next look into the lower support. No, the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, and again, we provided an update on the trading view for that yesterday. That's broken out now to the upside. It's coming into some resistance right now. So if you did take this trade, you would just be moving your stop right now to break even. But this is a very long base that it's put in, and it's breaking out of it now. We're expecting, or I've been expecting this to be what looks like a bottom being put in, a long-term bottom. I mean, I think we trade up much higher. So right now, you watch how price reacts into this resistance. You know, one of two things is going to happen. You're gonna bust through this resistance, which is, I think, pretty probable. And at that point, if you do break through that resistance, right, if you might get a retest of the support, and then that's a place to enter the trade. Or we're rejected here off this resistance. We come in and we test this as support, and that's an opportunity to get long. But you don't fade this. You don't fade this breakout. You look to get long on the breakout after a successful test of broken resistance as support. So it could either be this resistance up here if this breaks up to the upside, or this one down here. But do not look to fade that. Look to go with the breakout, not against it. Ooh, we haven't looked at the pound US dollar yet, and I'm very curious. Pound versus the dollar is holding this area. This important. I need to look on the daily. It's holding this. We did look at this in the weekly Forex forecast. Nothing has changed. This is an important area of support, and price peaked below it, and it's doing its best to regain it, but it's currently nowhere, right? And it doesn't offer much opportunity. That's what we discussed in the weekly Forex forecast. Something like the pound Japanese yen offers a lot of opportunity. So we'll look at that next. But this is the breakout, the breakdown didn't hold or go anywhere yet. If this were to resume, if this support that it's trying to regain and hold were to break to the downside, if price started making lower lows on the daily, yeah, you could get short this. Would I get long here? Absolutely not. I would not. This is not much happening, and there's a lot happening in the markets right now. We could see big moves across the board. So this is not where I'd want to focus my attention. I want to look for things that are moving and not for things that are sideways. This is absolutely the definition of sideways. All right. So definitely look to avoid this. But let's look at the pound Japanese yen. You could see this was the same, that support level it's trying to hold. This is the one on the pound Japanese yen that it broke. And you could see after it broke, it really followed through. Now it's consolidating. It's not even making any gains. The pound is weak here, right? The pound is weak, yet stronger than the euro today. All right, keep that all in mind. Yeah, there's so much opportunity in the markets right now, and it's not here. Yeah, major news coming up. We're expecting a rate cut. The best thing to do on all Canadian dollar pairs right now is definitely stand aside. There's incoming volatility. There's no way to know what is going to happen. This trade was taken right here, right here, and exited over here. All right. So right now it's just sidelines. Canadian dollar strong today. You can watch this on a lower time frame. Let's look at this. You could see over here, this is an area, this, hold on, let me move this down a little bit, and let me make this into support. That's a better look right now. And let me turn that into support. Now, is this pair in play today? Yeah. Is it going to be volatile? Uh-huh. Is it something that you want to trade? I don't think so, unless you're a really sharp day trader. There's going to be a lot of volatility here, and it's just it makes sense to step aside. Now, what we would like to see is if this support holds here and price resumes upwards. You know, again, the reason why you don't want to trade it is because price could come up here, take out this local resistance right here, and then trade back down. Um, depending on what the statement is out of the Bank of Canada, because what's going to happen is first, the price is going to initially react to the cut, and then it's going to react afterwards to the statement. So it's so much better to stand aside and reevaluate afterwards. Um, and that's the best advice I could give you. We will watch it as it occurs in a half hour, right? And then we could talk ourselves through it as it's happening. But as far as positioning yourself in before a central bank rate cut, absolutely not. Do not do that. Wow. Put in some gains, and that is, I believe, what is putting the pressure on the euro. Um, Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Powell must be happy today, probably a little nervous yesterday. So what are we looking for? I don't really focus in on the equity, so I'm not sure. But I do see that this little channel I've put in has remained in play. So the next thing I would be looking to see if we could break above this top resistance here. At that point, I would really consider at this moment in time holding onto my euro short. I will watch how price reacts over there. I believe that the best correlation right now, the tightest in the market, is the S&P and the euro US dollar, which is why I'm looking to this as a guide right now. Going to also be, I think they're going to coincide with each other. I'm going to be watching up here as well. This resistance here is probably the upper channel resistance. This one over here would probably be this resistance up here. Let's see. So we're coming into an important area of support right now. Let's see if the euro is able to rebound over there, or this support breaks. But it's a pretty decent level. There's a lot of other pound pairs I wanted to take a look at. Let's keep going. So the pound Canadian dollar, you're in this area of strong support here. This might be something to watch after the rate cut. I don't have a good read on the pound at all. But I do see this as a pretty nice area of support and a pretty good range to play. So this becomes very interesting coming into the rate cut over here. Canadian dollar is pretty strong today, coming into an expected cut. So be aware. Australian dollar is strong coming into this support over here. Again, we just looked at this. If this holds over here, that looks like an interesting opportunity. And the Swiss franc is it's very similar. The Japanese yen and Swiss franc are both very similar in that they are both consolidating their breakdowns. You're not seeing that retrace up yet. Now it is possible still that both the pound and the Japanese yen retrace more, but so far they're not. And what that means to me is that any equity markets are going to be sold eventually. Any equity market rallies will eventually be sold, unless we start seeing the pound and the Japanese yen give up more of their territory, which so far they're just consolidating. after their breakdowns, right? So we could see legs lower on both of those actually. Yeah. And this is when the yen broke the 109.71. I took this trade and sold down here on the open on Monday. Looks like I might have gave up too soon. You sometimes you have to be aware of when to hold trades and push them and when to take gains. When you see such big gains though happen so quickly, of course, like if you're anything like myself, you're inclined to take them. But nevertheless, sometimes you got to know when to push the market, and just trying to ingrain that in my own mind, and always looking to further and to improve, and especially get myself used to these new market conditions, because these are new market conditions. Over the past 3 months, we're seeing expansions in the market where we used to see everything pretty tightly bound and ranging back and forth, which, by the way, made it very helpful for mistakes in the market. Now we're seeing moves actually not only continue further or not only have further ranges, but continuing. It seems to me that the DAX just tracks the US equity markets these days. And that's exactly what we're seeing. US equity markets down, rise, DAX following it. They seem to just be tracking the US equity markets. And, I follow the US equity markets. I don't trade them at this point, but, and I should have over the past couple of days. But yeah, there's not much to say over here, to be honest. Base case for all markets right now is to look to rally, and then for those rallies to be sold. Now, the thing that we need to watch out for against our thesis is that if the recovery in China winds up becoming very strong, right? If the recovery in China winds up becoming very strong, that's going to be a sign that, first of all, two things. Number one, that the escalation of cases outside of China are going to probably continue to escalate over the next month, and then we'll start leveling out and declining. Number two, if China starts returning to work, that that basically the worst was already priced in. The easing from the central banks is going to kind of help things, and we're actually going to return to a environment of growth. So it's all about China and watching what happens in China right now. As everyone starts moving about, do we see further escalation of cases? It's going to be hard to figure out and watch because obviously it's fuzzy data we get out of China, fuzzy reporting of what's actually happening. But we'll be able to track it. There's ways. So I think the most important thing happening right now is absolutely, because China is about a month ahead of the world, about a month to 6 weeks ahead of the world. So we need to see whether or not there's a second escalation of cases, or actually whether or not we return to growth. But right now, US equities, DAX, you're looking to sell the rallies. I believe the rallies will get sold. I believe we're now in possibly a bear market. Yeah, it's interesting that the yen is gaining strength right now. That was just seems to be. I don't think it's going to be that quick, but we're seeing the consolidation, and then we're seeing the now a resumption down. Nasdaq is so. By the way, Nasdaq is lagging a little bit today. It's you can hear my voice, the uncertainty, and so that's my first indication that, first of all, the best thing to do is stand aside. Now, why I expect any rallies in the markets will get sold. I am personally, and this is, I don't like when I start inflicting my own bias on what's happening. It's dangerous. Right now, the charts, they don't really give any type of help. All right, it's a little difficult with this type of volatility to find out what's going on. Now, the only thing I can say is it becomes attractive to sell any rally the higher we get, right? We have to come all the way up on the NASDAQ here. I would say towards 93, 9400 before it looks like watching it to want to sell that rally. And it would be nice to see a lower high put in, but all the way back up towards the top. If this rally lasted overnight and is sold, you know, a momentum trader would start at the lows coming in there. But up here right now, I just think it's so much smarter to stand aside. I'm not coming in, markets up 2% and fading that. There's no way, that I want to fade that. But at the same time, I do not want to be long the markets, the equity markets. So it's really fuzzy. And until things are clear, it's so much better to stand aside. US markets have been open now for about 10 minutes and they're up huge on the day, but most of that gains come from overnight. There's been no follow through yet this morning, but it's still early. We're 10 minutes into it. And best right now in this type of environment, which is very volatile and jumpy, stand aside on equities. We have about 20 minutes till we're going to see some fireworks on the Canadian dollar. So we will come back to that. Euro, Japanese yen. So we're seeing that yen strength. Let's take a look at all yen pairs. But this is euro weakness. And if you get a bigger picture here, this is on a daily. You could see that there's nothing to do here. The market is very tricky right now. The market's very tricky right now. I am holding a short on the euro US dollar, and I'm just holding that. But the market's very erratic right now, and it's not clear. I'm looking for more clarity. All right. Australian dollar, US dollar. So I didn't see that. Let's take a look at it. So the Australian dollar is super strong today. I think that, well, this goes back to what we were just talking about with China. It largely depends on what happens in China now that they're returning to work and activity. Obviously not inside Wuhan, but all the major cities. I believe by the end of April, Foxconn plans to be back to full capacity. It's a question of whether or not we see any type of resumption of right now about 50% of the people are back. If that keeps climbing and cases do not start rising, at that point you're gonna have to say, I mean, China already did the right thing. I'm putting that line green, I'll put it yellow. This is the line in the sand, right? I would not. I'm looking to short the Australian dollar on any whiff of escalation inside China. If we clear this resistance over here and this trend line resistance to the upside and things are looking good in China, at that point, I will get very bullish on the Australian dollar. Until then, I am not. This is a downtrend. This is a retrace looking to sell resistance. I'm not going to jump in here. No way. I'll see what happens as we get further into this little bit of supply and this strong resistance. But a break above these two would that and things looking good would have me getting long the Australian dollar US dollar or perhaps the Australian dollar Japanese yen. So and I would prefer getting short the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen right now, but not yet. You gotta, we talked about it the other day. Jim Rogers. All I do is I wait until there's money in the corner and then I go and take it. There, there's no money on laying on the ground right now in the corner, right? It's things have moved so hard, so quickly. Right now, they're retracing slash consolidating. Things aren't clear, right? So don't be in a rush to trade. Wait for that. You get yourself into a trade by just taking a trade to trade, right? What is that? Well, first of all, that's gambling. Second of all you do is put yourself in a defensive position, and then as you're now involved in this trade and you're watching it tick by tick, and you get a really good feel. Then all of a sudden, the perfect entry opportunity arises, but this trade is against you, so you can't do anything about it. Right? Don't do that. Wait for that opportunity to be there, then take the opportunity. There's not much that's clear right now. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, yeah, that looks pretty clear. But if you didn't take the alert yesterday, now you're waiting for a break above here and then a retest, or a retest of this support down here. If we come back and test that, so again, you're waiting. Martin, I don't have a take profit. What I'm doing is I'm watching a couple of things. I'm watching um, this trend line over here, a retest into this area over here, and this resistance over here. I mean, I'll take a good portion of profits into that if we get there, right? That's so far away right now that I'm not betting on that. I'm watching to see if we break down over here, right? Um, I'm holding this trade, and I'm not looking to take profits anytime soon. I would like to be looking into this area over here of support to see about taking some off the table, um, and then even possibly even holding further. So I'm not taking profits. So right now we just which doesn't look so good, is we just took out the lows from over here from yesterday, and then are trading up off of it, right? So you want to see some follow through after taking out that low. Otherwise, we could come into consolidating. And the consolidation, of course, there's local resistance right here at 1.113, but it could go as far back up here. So that's a big range, a 60 pip range. Again, I'm not looking. I'm looking for a swing slash position trade here, as the euro is coming back all the way up so quickly, so hard, and so fast, all the way up to the 1.11. I'm sorry, 1.12 level. Um, so that's an area that I'm looking to hold for. Um, and now, as we get up here, people are talking about 1.14 and 1.16. I don't know. My eyes are down much lower. So that's a position trade, swing to position trade. Yeah, I am. Yeah, when we are since Monday, I took my first position, second one yesterday. So we got about now 10 minutes until we get the reaction on out of the Bank of Canada on the Canadian dollar. That's obviously going to bring some volatility. I'm interested to see what happens. I think the most important thing to do is be aware right now, after coming off some huge moves, markets are in the process of two things, of retracing and consolidating, right? We're seeing Swiss franc and Japanese yen pairs consolidating their gains, and we're seeing other pairs have large swings, especially the commodity currencies. Here, the euro. I'm gonna look for one thing. Put out a post yesterday on the current state of the markets and understanding how the markets are reacting around you. So important. Probably a 3-minute read. If you get a chance today, take a look at that if you haven't already. So here we go. So the U.S. equities also, most of that moves came overnight. Let's go down to a 15-minute time frame as the markets just opened, and it's so funny because it's a big range. It's about a 1% range between the highs over here and the support down here that's trading on right now. Support, right? If this starts breaking down, of course, the euro then is going to start appreciating, and then you're going to see further gains on the euro Swiss francs. Um, so equity markets are really the driver right now, as far as I see in FX. Just saw that it's up 2% today. Uh, Again, going back to yesterday's analysis and this weekend's, we were looking for it to stabilize, to consolidate between this resistance over here at 49.56, and then off this support, coming back now up until the higher end of the range, the resistance, and you know the OPEC is probably going to be announcing some production cuts. But at the same time, as the price of oil falls, they actually need to produce and sell more to make up for the difference, right? When you're selling oil for higher prices and then all of a sudden the price of oil drops, the only way to make up for it is to sell more oil because you're getting less money for it. I would look to absolutely continue to sell any rallies. Uh, right where my mouse is, I think 51.49 is a much better area to focus in on. uh, you know, you want to wait instead of getting in too soon. It's better to miss the trade. There you go. 51.94. It looks like a really nice level to lean into if we trade up that high. Um, but as you come into this first resistance here, if price is rejected by it, by all means go for the short. But again, going back to China, and as Peter was just saying, people are starting to get back to life, but not yet, and not the factories. And that's where you would see any escalation of the virus take place, right? Because the coronavirus, it sticks to surfaces. They're saying up to 9 days. So if just one person is sick, everything that they're touching, everyone else is going, door handles, elevator buttons, machinery. Um, the what we need to watch for is two things. What happens as China returns, you know, do further cases escalate? And if so, you're going to see oil trade much lower. And this was the retrace to sell into. If things return to normalcy and start improving, at that point, I'm not excited about oil, but at that point, the low might be put in. So right now, China is definitely the thing to be watching. All right, we're just a few minutes away. I'm going to pull up the US dollar, Canadian dollar. I'm also going to pull up a chart of the euro Canadian dollar, which has been a big mover today. We'll watch them both coming into the rate decision. For me, it's more. See, the markets have come off. I just noticed the markets came off about anywhere between, I'll call it 0.75%, and you see the euro rising on that. That's how tightly correlated the U.S. equity markets are right now to the euro. Um, Also want to pull up the euro Canadian dollar. I know Blair sent over a video on Mike Maloney yesterday talking about the implosion of currencies. I'm going to be watching that today. I didn't get a chance to watch it yesterday. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, it's Mike Maloney Gold Money is the YouTube channel, and the latest video looks like something that I definitely am interested in taking a look at. I always enjoy all of Mike's content. All right, so just the last 20 minutes, you're seeing a slight bid in the euro Canadian dollar in play right here. This is going to be something to watch, as well as if this support holds and you start making higher highs over here, that's something to definitely take note of. We'll take it as it comes. Also, I'll put it in the chat. Down here, you have it actually. This video, really well done. You really enjoy it, get a lot from it. Actually, Jesse provided um, a chart after watching that video that he dropped, and it was fantastic. All right, we're about 2 minutes away, less than 2 minutes away. Let's see how price reacts to this event. Mima, I'm with you on that. I'm holding strong. Now, if the Bank of Canada disappoints, if they only cut by 0.25%, at that point, and that could be why you saw that little bit of Canadian dollar strength, then being long the Canadian dollar becomes interesting as the market has priced this in wrong. There we go. It looks like they cut. See price rising. Let's see. Let me make sure it was a 0.5%, rate cut in. ISM coming out right now too. This is really important. Better than expected. That should help put a bid under the dollar. This looks like with a rate cut and better ISM, good idea to get long over here. I'm not jumping into the trade. I'll continue with my euro US dollar short, but is definitely inclined for further upside here on the US dollar Canadian dollar. Now, I would stand aside euro Canadian dollar. Peter, thank you. Peter, thank you for that. You know, I do notice that we don't get many views, which is fine. But you know, the comments that I get are they really just keep that fire going to keep putting out helpful content. Because the comments truly show the people's appreciation, and that's how I know that it's helping and it's doing exactly what it's meant to do, and that's what keeps me going. And I just hope to keep being able to continue with the quality of the content I put out and keep doing a good job in improving and helping people. That- I- that's a great attitude, and you're right. I think the thing about sharing with others and teaching in general, it really is what helps you continue your education yourself the most. And obviously, I'm a huge proponent of self improvement and always working towards striving to be better on all different levels. And that comment, Blair, was such an important reminder to me because you know I am a firm believer in that our words and our thoughts create our reality around us. I absolutely believe that. I know that to be true. And so when I read that comment, I said to myself right away, "Wow, I got to have the correct mindset." Thanks, Thomas. Glad to have you here with us. Really, truly. Let's look at the New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. The New Zealand dollar is lagging. It's not one of the stronger currencies. Australian dollar is strong, right? So that this is I don't like it. It's consolidating, and it's just consolidating a move down. You know, I like it if we do get up here to lean into it to the downside. I do like that, but I I don't really like this trade at all. But while we're here, can we check out the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar? You know, again, you missed the trade. It was a counter trend trade. It's not something that you would take. And right now, there's no way that although I expect us to keep pushing higher, uh you don't chase momentum. You don't take a trade up here long. So yeah, absolutely. Tom has become my favorite YouTube channel over the last 2 months. If anyone has not yet, Google this, put this in YouTube, and go to the videos, and whatever is interesting to you, watch, is going to help make you a better person, or you're going to learn something. Either way, good stuff. Yeah, Gabriel. Sorry, I just don't see it. Um, and that's just one of the most important lessons is that things need to be clear, and why this is not clear. We're just stuck. This is consolidation, right? Now you did take out below this support down here. You could see that price traded down below it and never held. So uh, that's a bullish sign, right? However, however, right now, I think the New Zealand dollar, which has just been wrecked, is just retracing a little bit. It's still consolidating. You need, I think, this line over here is pretty important, right? And if you were to regain this to the upside, then you could think about taking longs, right? Because, well, this is nowhere, right? boom, boom, back where you started and back between this resistance and support consolidating. Not only that, you're almost halfway between the two, so you're in no man's land. The only thing that I could think of happening would be if you get towards the top of this resistance, selling it, or maybe even selling off of the top of this blue box if that's rejected. But this has got to, before you think of getting long, it's got to prove itself and it's got to change the momentum. Right now, the momentum is down. Not only is the momentum down, I don't have trouble finding things. Not only is the trend down, price is just consolidating that down move. Normally, that means more down, right? So although this was a false breakdown here, don't all of a sudden be looking kind of trend. And Gabe, really, again, just really enforce in your mind, I sell off of resistance in downtrends and I buy off of support in uptrends. So that's a great question, Peter. And I don't know if, I guess we haven't done a video on that. So that's something that I should do a video on, but that's something that, so each day we are, and it only takes about, I would say 30 minutes is important, but we get a feel of the markets and we know today the Australian dollar is the strongest, right? We know that we're seeing the euro weak today. We know that we're seeing the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc are consolidating, meaning they're basically moving sideways. They're not giving up their gains. Here's a look at the Canadian. Well, that's a bad pair because the Canadian dollar just got wrecked. But let me look at the pound Japanese yen. So as you saw other currencies like the euro snapping back today, the Japanese yen is holding its gains. You see these gains? It's holding these gains. That means it's consolidating, right? The Swiss franc is doing the same thing today. Those are a sign that it's holding on to its strength. So to find out what's the weakest and what's the strongest is every day you just need to describe in your mind what's happening in the markets. Today, the euro is weakening. Today, the Australian dollar is very strong. Today, the Japanese yen and Swiss franc are consolidating their gains, right? And then tomorrow, again and again and again, and you keep layering that on. And then, we know from the past week, the Japanese yen is super strong because it's been strong every day. We know the Swiss franc has been strong the last few weeks, right? We know the Australian dollar, although it's strong today, it's been very weak, right? So that's how you figure out which is the strongest and the weakest. Is you just keep a tab by every day analyzing or describing what's happening, and then by doing that every day, you then paint a picture. Yeah, and you could Google a heat map to find out which is the strongest and which is the weakest today. I think Oanda has one that's pretty good because you could do, over the last hour, over the last 4 hours, day or week. TradingView has one, but I think it's only over the last 24 hours. And there are many heat maps, as Thomas suggested, and that's a way to find out which is, at the moment, which is the strongest currency of the session. But going back to what I was describing of having that overall feel, which continues and builds on itself, you can't really get that off a heat map. It's something that you need to work through yourself. How does news affect the markets? Let me go and pull one up for you. This is Hanera sharing a heat map. Oh, sorry, you got wrecked. Excuse me. Um, there's Hanero. Jackie's asking how I know how to judge the markets will be strong or weak according to news. So really important. Um, huh. By the way, so news events that I pay attention to, first of all, I only watch high impact news events. I use the Forex factory calendar. Now, medium impact news events, if they have a big hit or a big miss, will affect the currency pair for sure. Uh, but I only watch the high impact ones myself. Now, news trading is tricky. I don't let it affect my trading only unless there is a rate statement coming out of the central bank. For example, today I would not trade any Canadian dollar pairs because there was a rate statement and it was an active meeting. Meaning, if I know the central bank is going to be lowering or raising the interest rate, I generally don't get involved in trading that pair that's active. Now, there are other important events such as PMIs that are really important, manufacturing PMIs especially, and sometimes the market focuses on non-farm payrolls. It hasn't been for quite a while right now. Generally speaking, I follow the charts and just aware of the news. But the worst thing you could ever do is wait for a news release and then trade around it. This is the worst thing you could ever do. Stick to the charts. The charts price everything in, and until you have that feel for the news events, and that comes from watching over years, watching the news release, watching how price reacts over years. That is that's the only way you're going to get a feel for how it works. But do not. I have to turn off these alerts. Oh, sorry. Do not go ahead and wait for a news release and then trade off of that release ever. It's a terrible way to trade, and you're just gonna lose money. So don't even do that. Just be aware. Do not trade if there's a live rate statement coming out of the markets, and spend time watching news releases and how price react for a long period of time. That's the best advice I could give as far as news trading. Because I mean, what news trading is all about anyway is knowing what the release of that data was and then watching the price action off of that news release. So that's something that you need a lot of time and experience to be able to develop and learn. And it's simply not something that anyone who's not strong in that area will be able to do. You'll get eaten alive. I agree. I think, by the way, as far as heat mats are concerned, I think it's much more important to get the feel by watching every day and just pointing out which is the strongest, which is the weakest, to have that feel of the market rather than relying on a heat map itself. I think it's much more useful. So, what happened to our U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar? Continues appreciating off the support. I mean, looking good. Not much else to say. All right. Hanero, nice trading, buddy. You could see going back to the U.S. equities, there we were looking at that range, and they're still within it. It's a 1% range. It's a big range, The best thing you can do if you're focused in on the equities is wait for a breakout of that range. You can see on the downside of the range, the clear support. Here's my mouse. You could see the clear support that offers. Let me look at the upside. You could see the resistance over here. So watch that box. Watch for the breakout to the upside or downside to get the next clue on what's going to happen. And we see that a lot. We see that happening, obviously, in all the Japanese yen pairs, the Canadian dollar pairs. Life by football. Yeah. So sincerely, just go ahead over here into the live stream and pull back like 5 minutes because I just gave a really great explanation on news trading that I prefer you watch to hear it. I'll recap it and summarize it really quick. But when it comes to news trading, first of all, you should not do that. You should not do that at all. You're going to have much better success trading off the charts. At the end of the day, the charts price everything in. If you're waiting for a news print to occur and then trading off of it, and you don't know what you're doing, and by don't know what you're doing, I mean that you don't have years of experience, you're going to lose money. 100% you're going to lose money. How that works is depending on if the number comes in better or worse than expected, you then watch how price reacts off of that. That takes a lot of time. That can't be taught through that can only be taught through experience. It's not something that you or anyone else should do because it's a very difficult way to make money. And the other thing to say about news trading is, again, unless if there's a rate statement kind of at a central bank that's a live meeting, just stand aside, right? Aside from that, just watch what the charts are doing and watch how they price everything in. You're so far bouncing off that first look at support. I was hoping it was going to crush through. Yeah, I mean, in Hanero, you are a price action trader who is focused on that short time frame, and it's a skill you develop, and you're still saying, listen, it's hard. So the thing to do is just focus on where it's easier to make money in the markets. Where is it easier to make money in the markets? Number one, first do your analysis on the higher time frame. It's easier to have a higher time frame preference. The 8-hour, I believe, is the best time frame to trade. Number two, use support and resistance. Uptrends buy off support, downtrends sell off resistance. Right? This is where you're going to start making money by doing these things. Don't trade the news. Yeah, Gabe. I'm gonna take another look at it here on the daily as soon as my chart loads. Well, I mean, to be honest, I felt like to the upside, this area over here, I felt like this was stronger resistance, which is why I've been fading it since. And this is a lot of supply over here, right? So it's not going to be easier for it to get through. And then over here again, you got some pretty strong resistance. So I hope on the next look, I hope we get another look at that support, and I hope she blows through her. A lot of hope in there, huh? Alberto, that's a really, really nice compliment. I appreciate that, and I thank you for that. And yeah, I think this is a good place to be. I think you get definitely a much broader perspective about how the markets work together and how they work. And of course, it's like everything takes that time and that hard work and that dedication. And it's not something that you should expect to get into in one day or one week. But for sure, we're always all learning all the time. And it's just that experience that adds up. And then all of a sudden, talking about views on the channel, Blair is, yeah, maybe right now there's only a few hundred, but it doesn't mean, you know, months from now that won't change. You gotta put in the work, you gotta put in the time. You and your moving averages, Blair. What's going on, extraordinary trader? Good morning. Alberto, I really appreciate that comment. That means a lot to me, and I thank you for that. We got I just want to thank you. There's a 20 thumbs up. That's a lot of thumbs up. Again, we got 50 people in here watching. Other channels got 500, 1,000. The likes explode. That's a high rate to me. That shows that you guys like the content. And not only does that inspire me for real, that helps the Google algorithm. Share this with others. That's what helps build and support the channel. And so I thank you for that. It's a two-way street. So I turn it over to you guys. If anyone wants to look at anything, if anyone wants to pull up something to take a closer look at, to have it on the screen, I'd like to if you guys want to open up the chat amongst yourselves, chime in. I'm gonna sit back for a moment, have a sip of tea here. I don't like when stuff like this happens. You could see that this low over here, this was the low of yesterday. This was before the Fed stepped in and cut rates. And then you see today we took out that low by it looks like a pip, maybe more. Let's say 10956, 10956. We didn't take it out. We touched the same thing. Well, I like that better than had we taken it out by 1 pip. If we took it out by 1 pip and then came up, that I do not like at all. Let's see. I hope we get another look at that support to take it down. Ooh, this is amazing. I have to share this with you because you can't believe how excited I am. And that's right. Part of developing relationships and sharing with those the good and the bad. But so I started every Saturday and Sunday morning. We got 5 kids. They're all pretty young, right? We got 4 kids under 3.5, right? But we get like 20 minutes on Saturday and Sunday together in the morning where have a cup of coffee in bed. And for the past month or so, it's been watching whatever interests my wife on the Tom Blue, how do you say his last name? Bailu on the channel. And my wife just texted me 10 truths about being an entrepreneur. So I saw that title and I was like, wow, that's very unlike my wife to send something like that. That's awesome. I want to read. I love that stuff. And it was from Tom. So he says, you must work long, hard, and smart. There's no difference about being a trader than being an entrepreneur. You must work long, hard, and smart. It's not a question of and it's a good question. How do I trade the news? Right? Is this an edge I could translate into my trading? Could I wait for a newsprint? And is there an edge that I could trade around it where I can make money? It's an important question to ask. The answer turns out to be just something you should absolutely not do, right? And of course, focusing on what is easier to work. But the point is that you need to work long, hard, and smart as a trader, right? Number two, you got to be able to outperform the competition. Trading is a zero-sum game, right? You are trading against people who take it seriously, who do it for a living. They put everything they have into it. So if you're coming in here and you want to be a trader and you're not willing to commit to outperform your competition, you have no chance. There are no shortcuts. You have to put in the time. Number three, you can't ask people to slow down so you can lead. Nah, that's not relevant to us. You must destroy every obstacle that you encounter. Absolutely. You must be optimistic. Blair hit on that today, right? When he said not yet about the views, you must be optimistic. You must be optimistic. You have no chance of succeeding if you don't have a positive outlook. You must be in control of your emotions. As a trader, we know that you must be in control of your emotions. How do you do that as a trader? Number one, trade smaller. Trade smaller and you will take the emotions out of the equation. If you think that you could trade bigger and make more money, you're wrong. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose money because now your emotions are becoming in control of your trading. You have no chance of succeeding. You're going to lose money. If you go ahead and you start trading a smaller size, so small that it's insignificant to you, at that point, you're going to see your win ratio increase. You're going to see yourself taking on better and smarter positions, and you're going to start making more money. And then you could start adding to your positions. You are not good enough yet. How important is that mindset? I believe that with all my heart. I'm always looking to improve myself. I'm always looking to improve myself. I am not yet the trader that I want to be. That's why when trading in the zone was brought up to me and I had not read it yet, is something that I definitely want to have behind me, because the more information I get, the better of a chance I have at improving. You must learn every day. Every day. Always be learning. And if your strategy is wrong, refine it every day. Great stuff. So excited. My wife sent that over. Thomas, this is a fantastic question, and I'm going to point you right now to a great place to see about that. There is an interview today with Raul Powell and Anthony Pampalono. All right, I'll have to find the link for you then. And Anthony asked him the exact question. Raul is one of the co-founders of Real Vision. He asked him what's going on with the repo market, and Raul's answer was amazing. He said, "I don't know. I mean, I have an idea of why what is happening and how it is happening, but the truth is, I don't know, and nobody knows. No one." And he's talking about some of the most informed minds in finance. Nobody really knows, right? So I think that's the most important understanding to have. Something's wrong. We don't know what it is. All right. Yesterday, the Fed was it's most oversubscribed. I believe it was $110 billion. Something's wrong, but we don't know what it is. All right, it seems like we've entered into what looks like a further just range right now, which makes a lot of sense. Think about how volatile the markets have been across the board. And today, right now, we seem to be moving into more or less of a consolidation period. Makes a lot of sense. There is still things moving, and ranges have really opened up across the board. That's happened since the new year, um, and is continues to accelerate. Meaning the ranges are growing everywhere. Peter, that's clear, and not only that, Peter, um, it's not only clear, the improvement over just a couple of weeks is pretty substantial. I can see it. It's all about work ethic. It's all about work ethic. It's all about work ethic. It's not that some people are, yeah, no matter how talented you are, if you don't have discipline and you don't have work ethic, the guy that's working harder is going to beat you anyway. Yeah, and so I mean, Thomas, just to talk a little deeper about that. Is that, and this is where gold is so tricky. We saw last week as the markets sold off so hard that gold actually sold off, right? Because it was more of a liquidity event. This right here, right? This was, what was it, on Friday? This huge sell off on gold, and if the markets freeze up, Thomas, what you're going to see is that Japanese yen and US dollar strength, like during the 2008 crisis. You're going to see all the inflows going to the Japanese yen, the US dollar, the Swiss franc, and even gold will get hurt on that. The problem is, and what makes it so tough, is that at this point in time, and is much different than the 2008 crisis, is that very quickly can turn into a liquidity crisis, into a sovereign crisis. And at that point, the US dollar could fold so quickly, and gold could all of a sudden skyrocket, to whereas even the paper gold, you won't get it back, and only those holding physical gold matters. So um, it is scary. It's very scary how fragile the financial system is. Nice, Peter. Great to have you in here with us. I'm so glad you got that Ethernet connection. Um, and definitely thanks for the update. What's going on locally? That's a huge help to all of us, and sincerely, all of China has been in my prayers. Good night, Martine. And myself, I think I'm gonna end it here because there's a lot of stuff that I want to work on right now, and I think it was a good session. And right now, I think it's it's clear. So one thing before we leave. If you haven't read this, from yesterday, take a look at that. If you're not yet subscribed to there, go ahead and subscribe to there. Definitely will continue sending out my thoughts later in the day of what's going on. But right now, it's pretty clear the market is kind of just taking a breather from all that it's occurred over the past week. Some large moves being consolidated, other moves being retraced. It's a little too soon yet to jump in, although there is opportunity everywhere because the markets are moving, right? But instead of focusing on where the markets are not moving, for example, on the pound US dollar, right, which is trading, it's unchanged on the day, even right now, and it's trading sideways. Stay away from sideways price action and go to where things are moving. For example, the euro, Canadian dollar, the euro, or the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, or euro, Australian dollar. There are things that are moving today. Euro, New Zealand dollar. Focus where there is big moves and stay away from that sideways price action. Rama, so glad you're here. We're ending it for the day. Please do watch the replay. It's a great. You're going to learn a lot, or you're going to definitely enjoy it. I learned a lot. Hope you all did. That's it for today. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for uplifting me. Thank you for inspiring me, and thank you for making me a better me. I appreciate you all.